And I'm going to go live to Facebook then. Okay. Okay, whenever we're ready, I will hit live, Stephanie.
I'm all good whenever you are.
Okay, should we wait till like 10?
Oh yeah, I didn't realize we were already. I was so ready to be in a hurry that. How was your day? We can talk for a couple minutes.
I know. So we certainly were, but it seems nice. It's just giving me like good. I think they enhanced Zoom enhanced something, and it seems fairly very simple. It's going well.
Good. That's fabulous. I like when I hear stuff like that.
Right. That sounds good. So what's your agenda for the day?
I have a couple different interviews. I have some client appointments. I have some project work. I have a couple errands I need to run before business is closed. So it's just a mix max of things today.
Got it, got it. So I think it's the 9:59, and while being on a Zoom, we will still chat and begin in a minute or two. So I'm going to hit live now, okay?
Okay.
Setting up. All right, so I think we are live, and we will wait for all our audience to join in.
Okay.
Hello, good to see you, Stephanie. How Chicago is doing today?
Things are going great here. It's a little chilly. I'm actually a couple hours south of Chicago, but close enough. It's amazing because it's very green here still, which usually this time of year everything is covered in snow and ice. So I'm looking out my window and there's a lake out here, and there's still geese and ducks actively swimming on the lake, which is highly unusual at this time of year. So yeah, it's interesting, but going well.
Great. California looks windy today. Actually, I woke up in the night and I said, what the noise is? And it was super windy, but it's a sunny day here in California. I'm looking out my window. Irvine, the city I live, is a pretty green city. So it looks nice, but it's certainly windy today.
Well, and I would imagine that your version of warm in January is different than my version of warm in January.
Absolutely. Totally, totally, totally.
I'm
Yeah.
still wearing a coat in my version of warm for January.
Okay. But great to have you. So it's now 10. So
Okay.
we will officially will begin our live.
Okay.
When we will do the live will always remain on our Facebook page. So people can go and watch anytime later. And normally this is what we see. So at this point, we want to welcome all our audience here. And today we are discussing actually overcoming fear. And we have a very special guest. So if you allow, Stephanie, I have little intro for you. So just we want to let our audience know who we have today. So today we have a very special guest on our show, Stephanie LH Calahan. Stephanie is an expert in the field of personal development and self-empowerment, known as the Business Vision Catalyst. Honestly, I find this title very good. It feels good. Business Vision Catalyst.
Oh, I'm
She's
glad it
here
feels
to share.
good.
She's here to share her insight and strategies for overcoming fear and living a more empowered life. With her unique blend of practical advice and powerful stories, Stephanie will help you to tap into your inner strength and overcome the obstacles that are holding you back. So sit back, relax, and get ready to take the first step towards a fearless and fulfilling life. So, welcome, Stephanie.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you. And we are looking forward to talk to you on this mighty topic, I will call it.
Oh, well, thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
You want to add something? I know we had a very short intro. Is there anything you want to tell us?
Oh, well, sure. Thank you for asking. I work with extremely smart, energetic entrepreneurs who are service focused and have the desire to do these big things in the world and to confidently also create a highly profitable, life loving business of impact, meaning, and what I call guilt free freedom. But often they're at a point in their business where they're moving really quickly and they'd like to experience more growth without feeling like they need to give up the rest of their life to have it. And they usually went into business because they wanted to experience freedom and make an impact, but due to visibility blocks or money blocks or other fears in systems that don't serve them, they're not experiencing the joy they desire and they deserve. And deep down, they know they're standing in their own way, but they don't know what to do about it. And that's one of the reasons that we talk about fear.
Mhm,
My approach is holistic, right? I work with my clients on their internal mindset as well as their outer strategy, tactics, and symptoms
mhm.
and systems. And we often have these internal blocks that show up when we attempt to grow. And those blocks keep us stuck at best, experiencing setbacks professionally or personally. And I'll work with my clients to create a healthy mindset and then move their business and their life towards something that's joy filled and filled with impact for the people that they live and work with.
That's excellent. And if, as we spoke briefly, that you're coming from a very, very busy background, being like in your early profession, so I feel that you are a very good expert here with us. So thank you for sparing your valuable time to us. So
Thank you.
without further ado, we can dive into our questions, because it's a
Okay.
Q&A session and we have some good questions where Stephanie will provide her insight. But we request our audience to type in your questions and we will do every effort to answer those questions. So please, please, please type in. And if we are not able to answer those right now, we will go back, and Stephanie generously accepted that she will go back and answer any individual questions are laid out on our chat. So feel free to type in your question in the chat and we will take them. So we will start with our first question. I know we discussed, I introduced Stephanie, but now officially I want to ask you again, Stephanie, tell us more about you. I know you told us more, but tell us more about you.
Tell us more. Well, so let's talk a little bit about how I got to where I am today. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Um, in addition to doing what I do for a living, I am also a mom. I am a wife. I'm an empty nester, a fairly new empty nester. I'm on year 4. I still feel like I've got a long way to go to figure that out. And I often spend a lot of time playing with my dog. But when I'm not doing those personal things, I'm working with these really brilliant people
Mhm,
that have really important things to do in their life. And I call my clients world changers. Now, often when we first begin working together, they don't see themselves as a world changer. But here's why I say that. In 2009, I almost died. And my system completely shut down. And the reason I am here today is because of a solo business owner who was a health coach,
mhm.
who listened to me where my doctors were not. My doctors had misdiagnosed me and had told me basically to just, make plans to not be here anymore. That was
Oh,
2009. That was a long time ago now.
oh,
So I call him my angel here on earth. And he saved my life. He helped figure out what was really going on. And we don't have time to get into that today. That's not our topic. But the point to that is I found him on accident. His business was not well known. I actually found him through a friend of a friend. And I realized that there are millions of people just like him who make a difference with every single client that they work with.
Mhm, mhm.
And in making that difference with every single client that they work with, they are making the world better. And that's important to me. I want to help those people be able to do what they do. It's almost like a domino effect. So that's my why. That's why
Mhm.
I do what I do. And frequently, what's holding back a lot of these individuals from being able to serve more people in a way that has great impact is fear that's holding them back. And so that's why we're talking about what we're talking about today.
That's great, and kudos to you. You look more vibrant, and I know you from other capacity as a U Chicago parent.
Yeah.
And the way Stephanie hold the U Chicago community is commendable.
Thank you.
And that's where I first start knowing you, and I'm really, really honored to be connected on beyond your Chicago parent,
Me too.
right? So it's just really, really good. So thank you for sharing your story, Stephanie. It's totally, totally inspiring. So with
You're welcome.
that, we'll move to our like second question, and that is pretty much the heart of our talk today. We are talking overcoming fear. So we want to ask you, Stephanie, what are the different type of fear? Would you like to throw some insight there?
Yeah, let's talk about that because there are two high level types of fear. They're rational and irrational, or I like to call them productive and not productive types of fear.
Mhm,
So, rational or productive fear is a normal response to a real or immediate danger, such as being afraid when you're on top of a tall building without proper safety measures, or wanting to avoid spreading a fire, right?
mhm,
Rational or productive fears help keep us safe by alerting us to potential hazards and motivating us to take action to protect ourselves. Stopping at a stoplight, we do that to protect ourselves from other cars coming, right? That's a rational concern that we might have. But then there's irrational or non productive fear, and that's an excessive or unreasonable fear of a specific thing or situation that's not likely to truly cause harm. It's
mhm,
not based on reality and it can interfere with our daily life. People with irrational fears have a pattern of self-sabotaging attitude, which can prevent them from reaching their full potential. And most irrational fears can be overcome with self-help or coaching or therapy or other means of support. And so
mhm.
today we want to talk about that irrational fear.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. And sometimes it's important for us that we realize those differences.
Yeah.
Because I'm a registered dietitian and we talk about stress a lot over anything,
Oh,
that
yes.
not all stresses are bad all the time, because
Right.
some stresses can keep us motivated and they might not be. So it's about identifying that you stress versus distress. So thank you
Right.
for sharing
Right.
those rational and irrational fears. So
Well, and so do you want me to share one of my personal stories that would tie to your business?
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
So I carried emotional, irrational fear weight for a long time.
Mhm,
Um, when I was younger, I used to get un um, unrequested, unwanted attention that was not positive attention from men.
mhm,
And so my subconscious said, well, if you're heavier, then you won't get the same kind of attention. And so I had this emotional weight. It was physical weight, right? My weight
mhm,
had gone up pretty significantly.
mhm,
Um, and my weight was a combination of inflammation and then this emotional part. And once I realized that I could be safe
mhm.
and be at a healthier weight for me, I was able to much easier drop the weight that I had held on. But my body was just holding, there was this fear, right? This fear
Right.
of attention from men that I didn't want. And that's a fear. But I worked through that in a myriad of ways and was able to help my health as a result.
Excellent. No, just totally, totally like bring when the mindset shift, and I see this a lot, Stephanie, in my practice. And many times when the people have little fear, I never target because sometimes that becomes a really good fear, body shame, so many things, and we never want to build. People never lose if even if it comes to the weight. So what I like to work towards that. Hey, let's adopt. Let's redefine your lifestyle and
Right,
let the weight become a byproduct, right? So it
right,
certainly goes, and then being empowered, like having no fear, or at least I always believe that when I'm doing that, when you have life, you have stress, you have fear, but then why don't have your own toolbox when the situation arises, and then you know what to do with it.
right.
So that kind of like, so thank you for sharing that. So with that, I will go to our third question. So, Stephanie, I want to ask now that could you please provide an example how someone could recognize those fears in themselves and what they could do about it?
Sure. Now this is a big question, right?
Right.
So let's start at the high level and work our way down. Does that sound okay?
Yes, absolutely. Take your
Okay.
time because this is what is the core, and we want to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
answers to those, right?
Well, and I want to add too, as it ties to the really important part of the important work that you do.
Hmm.
Um, fear and fear impacts our stress response. Our stress response impacts our adrenal system. Our adrenal system impacts everything in our body,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
And so not only are there um, results driven reasons of why you might want to address the fears in your life, there's health
Hmm.
related reasons for
Hmm.
why you might want to address the fears that you have in your life. They're very intertwined often with people, especially today when people have a heightened sense of stress to begin with, right? So
Right. Right.
um, I kind of wanted to highlight that before we talk about this. So the most common fear for adults is actually a grouping of fears called imposter syndrome. And it shows up in a number of different ways depending on the person. And over 70% of Americans experience this.
Hmm.
Even one of my heroes, Dr. Maya Angelou, she said, I've written 11 books. And each time I think, uh-oh, they're going to figure me out now. I've run a game on everybody and they're going to find me out. Like she
Hmm.
was a brilliant, amazing author and poet. And yet she still had this running in the background of they may figure me out.
Hmm.
So it's a psychological phenomenon that reflects a belief that you're inadequate or incompetent.
Hmm.
And to make matters more complex, they show up in fear behaviors that frequently we maybe were raised to believe is virtuous. In fact, our parents maybe had imposter syndrome too, and it impacted in how they raised us. So in reality, it becomes kind of this conglomerated mess of harmfulness to ourselves and others. And through the research that I've done on imposter syndrome, because I have a lot of clients that struggle with this, I
Hmm.
found 33 different symptoms. Um, and I know we don't have time to go through all 33, but I thought I'd share just a couple examples here.
I
Uh,
think so. Yes, please. Hmm.
so even though you've been in, maybe even though you've been in your role for quite a time, you can relate to the feeling of I don't know enough. Maybe I need to earn another certificate, or maybe I need to earn another degree. If you're saying that, you might be struggling with imposter syndrome. If you price your services too low, or you don't ask for the sale, or if you're employed, you don't ask for a raise because you don't believe you deserve to be paid appropriately for what you do,
Hmm.
you may be struggling. If you over deliver every time you provide a product or service,
Hmm.
if people pleasing is a common habit of yours, or even if sometimes it's with reluctance and resentment, if perfectionism paralyzes you, or if you hide and you don't speak up and you don't say yes to opportunities, or if you're a procrastinator,
Hmm.
all of those reasons could be signs that you have some form of imposter syndrome for you. So if you'd like to see that full list, I said I have 30,
Hmm.
30 different things that you could check yourself with.
Hmm.
I have an article and a self-evaluation quiz on my site. So you can go to stephaniecalahan.com/imposter syndrome to
Hmm.
see that full list. But I thought today, let's talk about some groupings to help us really understand um, the different types of fears and how they play out in our life. And in her book, The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women, Why
Mhm,
Capable People Suffer from Imposter Syndrome and How to Thrive in Spite of It, Dr. Valerie Young had decades of research on this topic.
mhm.
And she categorized the books for women, but it actually applies to men and women both. And she had different categories: the perfectionist, the
Mhm.
Superman or woman, the natural genius, the soloist, and the expert. And I thought, when you were saying, Stephanie, how can we talk about this and give people things of what they could do about it? Those 5 different categories, I think, would be a great way for us to frame things today, to talk about, here's one category and here's what you could do if this is you. Here's another category, here's what you could do if this is you. Does that sound good?
Mhm, mhm. I think that makes perfect sense.
Okay, so let's do that.
Mhm,
So the perfectionist is a form of fear of needing things to be just right. Perfectionism and imposter syndrome go hand in hand because perfectionists set excessively high goals for themselves.
mhm.
And when they fail to reach that goal, they experience major self doubt and worry about measuring up. And this is where the fear comes in. I'm afraid I need to measure up to this. This needs to be really, really good. And this group can also commonly believe that they have to do everything themselves. So there's a fear of delegation, there's a fear of asking for help.
Mhm,
So if this is you,
mhm.
you can learn to take your mistakes in stride, viewing them as a natural part of the process. In addition, I would encourage you to push yourself to act before you're ready.
Right.
Force yourself to start the project you've been planning for months, because the truth is there will never be a perfect time and your work will never be 100% flawless. And the sooner you're able to accept that, the better off you'll be, because recognize this, and this is so important. The people you're meant to help get zero of your ideas if your ideas are always in incubation mode and you're always working on making them perfect. Now, don't get me wrong. I absolutely believe in delivering with excellence,
Mhm.
but there's a difference between excellence and perfection. And so delivering early, and then if there's something that you want to correct along the way, go ahead and do that. But then your knowledge, your brilliance, your wisdom is shared with the people that need to know it.
Mhm, mhm.
And then the second type is that Superman, Superwoman, also known as a workaholic. And individuals that struggle with this, and I am a recovering workaholic,
Okay.
they absolutely recovering workaholic, they often push themselves to work harder and harder to measure up. But this is just a false cover up for their insecurities. And
Mhm,
work overload may not harm not only their own mental health, but also their relationships with others,
mhm.
because workaholics are actually addicted to the validation that comes from working, not from the work itself.
Mhm.
So the fear is that people won't accept them unless they're highly productive. So start training yourself to veer away from external validation. No one should have more power to make you feel good about you than yourself. You were born worthy. On the flip side, you can learn to take constructive criticism seriously and not personally. And there's a fine line between that, right? So sometimes individuals that are workaholics, that are people pleasing workaholics, will take every piece of feedback as a personal attack or a personal feedback. And it's really frequently not the case. So take that criticism seriously and consider what you could do to improve whatever you're getting feedback on, but don't
Mhm.
necessarily take it personally. And as you become more attuned to your internal validation and you're able to nurture your inner confidence that states that you're competent and skilled, you'll be able to ease off the gas of how much work is reasonable.
Mhm.
I mentioned I am a recovering workaholic, and I grew, and I mentioned earlier in our conversation about how sometimes that imposter syndrome might come from our parents that raise us into virtues. And I was raised with the virtue of hard work.
Right.
You
Mhm.
work hard. And my subconscious and my brain took that a little too far. Um, and I was working 80, 90 hours a week on a very regular basis and allowing my relationships to slide, allowing my health to slide. And that's not a healthy, balanced way to live. That's not a joyous way to live. And
Right.
it's completely possible to balance things out where, again, you can deliver with excellence without necessarily having to prove by putting in a tremendous amount of hours.
Mhm.
The amount that you work does not necessarily equal even the results that you deliver. And so there's smart ways to do that where
Mhm.
you can have a joyous life from that as well.
Right.
Now, the third kind is the natural genius. People in this subgroup believe that they need to be natural at what they do. They judge their competence based on the ease and speed opposed to their efforts. So in other words, if they take a long time to master something, they feel shame.
Mm.
And they're afraid to take time to learn things. They set their internal bar impossibly high, just like perfectionists do. But their natural genius types don't judge themselves based on high expectations. They judge themselves based on getting things right on the first try. And
Right.
when they're not able to do something really quickly or fluently, their internal alarm sounds. And so if this feels familiar to you, you can try seeing yourself as a work in progress. Accomplishing great things involves lifelong learning and skill building.
Right.
And for everybody, for
Oh,
everybody,
yeah. Yes.
even the most confident people. And so rather than beating yourself up when you don't reach your impossibly high standards of fast learning, identify specific changeable behaviors that you can improve over time and recognize that it's okay for certain topics to take longer than others for you to do, and that it's really not about the speed with which you accomplish things, but
Mhm.
the fact that you're making steady progress.
Right.
And then the fourth type that we talked about here is the soloist. And they feel as though asking for help reveals some kind of phoniness in them. And now, look, it's okay to be independent, but not to the extent that you refuse assistance so that you can prove your worth. We all need help from one another. We all need support from one another. That is a natural part of the human condition. So realize that there's no shame in asking for help when you need it. And if you don't know how to do something, ask. And you can talk with a coworker, a mentor, a coach, or an other trusted advisor. And then that fifth category was the expert.
Mhm.
And now experts measure their competence based on what and how much they know and can do. And believing they will never know enough, they fear being exposed or inexperienced or unknowledgeable. So they typically have earned a number of certificates or degrees or other forms of continuous education. This type of person may have a couple different PhDs, or they may have a number of different certificates from their professional associations, or they may have a variety of ways that they're continuing to add to documented certification of
Mhm.
what they know. And it's true, there's always more to learn. I mean, I'm constantly reading just because I like learning more, right? But striving to bulk up your skill set, it can certainly help you make strides professionally, and
Mhm.
it can keep you competitive in the job market. But if you take it too far, and again, all of these are if you take it too far, the tendency to endlessly seek out more information can actually be a form of procrastination. And like perfectionism, if you procrastinate, you're not helping people you're meant to help.
Right.
So start practicing just in time learning. And this was something I had to learn how to do. This
Mhm.
means
Mhm.
acquiring a skill when you need it. So, for example, if your responsibilities change, rather than hoarding knowledge for false comfort,
Mhm.
pick the knowledge that you need for what you are working on or where you're focusing right now. A great way to discover your inner expert also is to mentor others. So, when you share what you know, it not only benefits others, but it also helps you heal those fraudulent feelings. So, no matter the specific profile, if you struggle with confidence, you're
Mhm.
absolutely not alone. And if you have fears around those things, you're absolutely not alone. And if you've experienced any of that at any point in your career, um, or if you've chalked up your success to chance or charm or connections or any other external factor, how unfair and unkind are you being to yourself? So today would be a great day to start to be kinder. And as you do that, you'll also set up yourself to make an actual bigger impact on the world rather than letting your fears hold you hostage.
Right. Right. No, it's a great example, right? So um, I would certainly like to know, because you are wealth of knowledge and I heard you before and you shared actually like really those 5 steps where people can dig deep and at least take their first step. So my question to you, Stephanie, as we are getting close to wrap this up, if where can people connect with you online? And especially, I am in California, and you are way far in Midwest. So where they can find you, Stephanie?
Sure. Well, the best place to go is just my site, which is StephCalahan.com.
Mhm,
And Callahan spelled with one L. So it's Calahan. And I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and um, Instagram. I'm on a lot of the more common social media sites. But if you go to StephanieCallahan.com, there's links to all those. So it makes it really easy to do the connection. And I love to meet new people. I love connecting with new people. On all the social media sites, the responses are from me. The posts are from me. I don't pay somebody to, respond as me. Um, that doesn't feel very authentic to me, so I don't do
mhm,
that. Um,
mhm,
and if you'd like to go deeper on the topic of imposter syndrome, as I mentioned before, go to stephaniecallahan.com/imposter syndrome, where you can find more about what we talked about today. And there's loads of other types of irrational fears: fear of success, fear of failure, um, fear of being on camera. There's loads and loads and loads of people that limit their success because
mhm.
of the irrational fears that they have in place. And so, if any of this um, sparks something for you, I invite you to reach out and let's have a conversation.
Absolutely. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And as I see in my practice, I work towards, and if people notice that it's not about being in good health, is not only being a disease free, right?
Right.
It's about, I always see the people, do you wake up every morning and you know how to go about it? You have job, you are happy about it, you have family, you happy about it. And if the adverse situation comes to you, you have a toolbox. I like people to have their toolbox. So it certainly have those people where to go if they seek help. So when it comes to that, there's a lots of stigma still present in our society when people
Yes.
sometimes kind of hesitant in finding the help. So the point is that please seek help. That's help might be next to you, could be your coworker, could be a family member. It's about expressing and being communicative, because communication can resolve so many things, right?
I agree
So
completely. I agree. Well, I wouldn't be here today in this conversation if I hadn't gone and found help.
right, right. So I certainly want to see that now. Today is I want to bring, because you are a mommy of a college student and I'm a mommy of a college student. Nowadays, our children are also going into very competitive age, and there's lots. I don't know whether it's a realistic or out of the way. I'm pulling this question here, Stephanie. What suggestion would you give to high school students or or college students, or even to their mommies? Maybe this is very like something what you learned over the
Sure.
year. You have certainly more experience than mine, and maybe I'm seeking this advice from you, and I
Sure.
never know that more people might be get benefited from this.
Especially things really are competitive now. And
Mhm,
I think one of and so there's this fear of missing out, FOMO, fear of missing
mhm,
out. There's the fear of not progressing fast enough. There's the fear of picking the wrong thing if we're talking about what you're going to study, what you're going to do in your future. Um, there's so many fears that crop up at this age, whether students are going off to college or whether students are going to some kind of trade school or an apprenticeship or any type of advanced um, the ways that they're educating themselves beyond high school, right? And I think that one of the best things that as parents we can do
Mhm,
is help remind our students that they are a whole person. They
mhm,
are not just a student. Um, there are all kinds of studies around individuals who only study,
mhm,
and the burnout factor that they experience, the isolation that they experience, the life dissatisfaction that they experience. And
mhm,
so, this stage of life, from high school on, 17, 16 to
mhm.
25ish is an age of exploration.
Right.
It's an age of learning to become an adult, which has a lot of its own fears and
Mhm,
adjustments for both the parents and the student.
mhm.
And when you look at yourself, or when you look at your student holistically, and encourage them to sleep well, encourage them, which is kind of funny, college students aren't known to do a lot of sleeping, right? But it's important. It's really important.
Mhm.
Eating nutritious things, drinking lots of water, but then also to participate in community, in
Right,
some kind of community,
right,
whether that is a friend group or a club, or there's so many different options.
right.
But when you have a group of people that you can build relationships with, you are a healthier person overall. And when you are a healthier person overall, emotionally and physically, then your
Mm.
brain works better, right? So
Right. Oh,
it
yeah.
loops
Oh,
back
yeah.
to that whole concern of learning, right? And so it's all interconnected.
Mhm,
And so when you can remember to consider the whole person, not just the student classroom person, um, I what I've observed is that those individuals have um, more of what I call abundant success.
mhm.
They do well in classes, but they're also happy. They're
Right,
well balanced.
right.
They contribute to society. There's just a lot of really good things that can come from that.
Mhm, mhm. No, that's a great advice. And I personally, as we spoke even before, that anything we are doing in life professionally is a one part of your life,
That's
right?
right.
But the
Right.
ultimate goal for us is to be able to wake up happy
Yeah.
and do the things comfortably, and then go to bed and relax and have this deep sleep in the night and wake up again and go on, right? So that was very insightful. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you for, yes, please.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I guess the other thing I'll share is that because there are a lot of really driven people, whether they are adults in their careers, adults in their business, young adults in their figuring out what their future is going to be.
Mhm.
There's a lot of really driven people that have these really amazing goals.
Right.
And I mentioned I'm a recovering workaholic, so I was one of those people that
Mhm.
didn't do the things I'm advising for people to do now. And I
Right.
learned from experience, right?
Mhm.
But I'll also share that the year that I slowed down, the year that I got better sleep, the year I focused on drinking more water and eating differently for what my body needed, the
Mhm.
year I really focused on self care was the year my business tripled. It doesn't have to be an either or. In fact, the more you allow your body and your brain to function at its optimal level,
Right.
the better business school, professional results you can get.
Excellent point. And I believe that, yes, we have, that's a great insight. And so here officially we will end our discussion and we will look. So far, I do not see as such any questions coming, but we will keep looking. People can come and watch. This is recorded on my page, Dr. Sangeeta Nutrition. So feel free to go anytime and watch. And I highly encourage that if you personally looking some help, I would give a big shout out to Stephanie. She is a great professional. Reach out to her. Um, and then anytime, please, Dr. Sangeeta Nutrition is here to support your nutrition and well-being needs. So reach out to her, visit us as drsangeetanutrition.com. Or if you are our community, you know how to reach to me. So reach out And we wish everybody a very happy and contained day today, January 23rd, 2023. Any final words, Stephanie?
No, I just wish everybody the joy of knowing a balanced life, the joy of focusing on the things that light you up so that you really can have just this really amazing life while also making a profound impact on the people that you're meant to serve.
Right. So thank you, Stephanie. We value your time and expertise, and we wish you well. And with that, we will conclude our Facebook Live.
And are we still recording on